Some conversations will be mind-blowing and you'll sit there and you'll have the most profound change.
Hello.
Hello, Janice.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, the first phrases in a Zoom meeting. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly? Are you good?
I'm fine, yeah.
Jolly good. Cool. What I normally do is we normally go, hello, and then all of a sudden I'll go, okay, so it's 52 conversations, welcome, because my man will dip the first bit out, so that's cool. So I'm assuming there's nothing you're concerned about talking about, because I'm not likely to ask anything strange.
No, I know how you know, and I think even if you can feel if I'm not comfortable with it, and you find immediately a different question.
Absolutely, we'll be as organic as we always are. Exactly. Anyway,
and I'm also like, if there's something I don't want to talk about, I said, oh, let's skip this. Whatever.
So, we're not going to talk about that. So is everything good for you? Are you all good before we start?
I think I'm good. I've got my water, I still my coffee. I even got my remote control for this door, just in case it will rain again. I can close it from here.
Okay, so you're all nice.
I was just wondering if I click the Zoom link from my WhatsApp, if I turn the WhatsApp off on my phone, if I lose you, that's possible.
It should stay.
Let me see. Otherwise I come in again from, I think it's also in the email, right?
Yeah.
But if I don't close it on the laptop, then all the time the plop is coming. Let me just quit WhatsApp and see if I'm staying.
See what happens.
Oh, I'm still here, because last time I got kicked out and I was thinking it was the same minute when I stopped the WhatsApp. That probably was something else. So I'm here.
So you're here. Okay. So Petra, welcome to
now.
No. Shh. I like that. There you go. Take a breath. Take a drink. So, Petra, thank you for joining me on 52 Conversations. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm fine. I don't know if you know, we are in the cyclone season and it's pretty windy, so I'm not sure if the connection will be stable, but we will see.
We will see. I mean, there's a good reason for me to be here, other than becoming an OMI, is to be away from hurricane season, right?
Yeah. And this year I think it started early. The whole June we have so much wind already, which is unusual, but
it's a bit crazy. It is what it is. So for people that don't know you, perhaps you can introduce yourself as who you are and where you live, because you're already saying that you're living in a place that's got weather coming. So there you go.
That's true. Well, my name is Petra. I live in the Caribbean now for almost 15 years. I'm German, and I moved here 15 years ago after I felt like, first of all, that I need change, and especially that I need change to be happier and healthier. And the way of living that I had in Germany wasn't my right path.
It wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't. So I came here just to learn French.
Okay.
Weeks. And 15 years later, I'm here. Well, I've been after the French classes. Of course, I went back. I still was a managing director. But from then on, I knew I have to do everything to change my life and live here in the Caribbean.
So you set out on your path. Isn't it interesting that the Caribbean has this way of sinking itself inside of people? So it's a bit like me going on my 3-month test, and then 7-8 years later you're like, yeah, okay, then how did that work? Yeah. Really well.
But for me, I didn't even know about anything about Guadeloupe. When I found this island to learn French, I was like, where's that? And when I saw, oh, the Caribbean, I always wanted to go there. Let's go. And then I was, like you said, sucked in, obviously, in this energy. And what they say, the energy in Guadeloupe is very strong. Either the island loves you or it rejects you. So
Okay.
obviously
It
Finland
loves,
loves me.
you, and you love it. So if we go back to come forwards, so you work, because you've already shared a little bit. So you were in Germany and you kind of realised that life wasn't happening to you the way that you wanted it to happen.
Mhm.
So had you kind of followed the path that you were expected to follow, and then you kind of found yourself doing this thing that I often think women do? We wake up and we think, what's going on? Is this it?
Well, I think the first thing that woke me up was the separation from my ex-husband. And then I thought, like, who am I? What kind of life am I living, or what do I want to live? And I always wanted to live in California. I've been there for a year in Los Angeles, and that was obviously my dream going back, but it never happened. And when I came here to Guadeloupe, I felt like it felt like home. That was something I've never felt before. And then I realized, okay, there is something deeper. There is something. If this feeling exists, then we have to look for this feeling.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that it exists. I never knew this feeling, like being home, and not just home on an island or in a house, but home with me, where you. And I had a coach at that time, and she said, "Oh, you are somebody who can sit all day long at the beach, watching the horizon and just waiting for the best happen." I was like, "What does that mean?"
What does that mean?
I don't see myself sitting the whole day on the beach, but
Yeah.
this is what I can do. And now for me, the beach is like recharging, and this is where I get inspiration for also for my work, creating. I'm always creating courses or classes, or now for the last 3 years, I'm painting a lot.
I was going to say the artist part of you has come alive, hasn't it?
Exactly. And this is something, as if I knew it when I was a kid, there is something more. But that was too big, thinking of myself, I can be an artist. And so you don't go there because it's scary and it feels so unreal. But now everything is just developing. I'm not forcing anything. It's just coming out of me. I think that's the island.
And I think it's the island. And I was recording a conversation that I think you'll love yesterday with friend Jane. And she said there's also something about being women of a certain age, dare I say it, that we now have all this experience, knowledge, and understanding, and we're not afraid of anything anymore. It's kind of like, if you're going to do it, well, I'm going to dip my toe in. Actually, no, I'm going to jump the whole way in, and I'm just going to explore and see what happens. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think now in this certain age, it becomes like fearless. But
Yeah.
when I separated, I was just 38. I was full of fear, really full of fear. But everything happened organically. I felt like, oh, maybe I should go there. And then there it was so amazing, and just amazing things happened.
Yeah.
So that it felt like, okay, let's do more. Let's do more. And now when I look back, I think, oh my gosh, you must have been so naive. And even coming here for work, my French was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even speak French, but the people loved my accent. They loved my faults in the sentences and the vocabulary that was missing. They just
so they fully embraced you, embracing yourself.
Yeah, but which I didn't even realize at that time. And now when I look back, it's like, oh my gosh, you must have been so naive or just courageous, what people say.
Courageous and naive. There's nothing wrong with either of those things. So
No.
I can't remember if I've asked this question before. When did you find yoga? Or did yoga find you?
Certainly, that's the case, that yoga finds us. I already was on the island. I came here as a fitness personal trainer and a Pilates teacher. And then working as a fitness coach, people ask more and more also for food, nutrition, how to lose weight. And so I studied also nutrition in New York. And with the nutrition studies, then you learn still more about relaxation and everything about wellness and well-being. And yoga is, of course, part of it. So I also started the yoga teacher training. But then there I felt like, oh my gosh, this is what I was looking for. All the rest that I did before, it was just bringing me to this point. to become a yoga teacher. And from that on, I did a few yoga teacher trainings. And then I also realized that meditation is a big part of me, or what I would like to teach and develop. I became a meditation coach. And this is what I have mostly now in my work. It's the meditation part, meditation coaching. And through the meditation, also when I did the meditation coach training, I developed myself a lot. So because sitting in meditation and knowing you better and better and better and finding more pieces of yourself, this is where the artist came out.
Absolutely. Well, it's the personal transformation for yourself, isn't it? And I think a lot of people, that if they listen to this, a lot of people will be into some of the things we're into, and they're into personal development and looking out for themselves. So we go on these courses and we kind of think we're going for this piece of paper, but actually it's all about the journey. The piece of paper is kind of way over there, isn't it? It's what comes out of you. So in terms of the sort of, you set up then in Guadeloupe, so then you set up a yoga studio. How did it all unfold and start to fit together?
Well, this was also like everything just happened, and also seeing what kind of client came into my life and asked for certain things, so that I was asked adding something else.
Okay.
It was really the environment that pulled me into the direction where obviously I had to go to. And I started up, when I came here, I started in a fitness studio, and I thought it's just 3 months of internship, but I was paid, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can stay with this salary here. Yeah. And so that I stayed. So this is also something that wasn't planned. I just stayed to learn more French and then see if I could work here. But everything happened. It just happened to me.
It all happened for you and through you. So were you a fitness coach already in Germany?
No. In Germany, I was an engineer and a managing director. I was leading a technical company. But then when I felt like I have to get out of it, I became a fitness teacher and Pilates teacher, because this was something what I did anyway every night. Right. So I felt like, okay, I have a connection to this, and health was always important for me. And I always was reading nutrition books, and I was thinking, maybe there's something. Let's jump into this and see what comes out of it.
So that was a lot of your passion anyway. And then Guadeloupe, and making that leap of faith and literally trusting yourself and trusting the process to unfold, opened up all these other things.
Yeah. And this was really, when I was here, I wasn't even thinking about it. It just felt right. It just felt like, okay, here I want to live. And then each time I came, the first year, I think I came 3 times a year to learn French, because then I knew, okay, I want to live here. I need to learn French now. Yeah. And then I started also taking classes in Hamburg in the French Institute twice a week for 2 hours. I was really into it. So that was the goal now, learning French. And each time I was here sitting at the beach, I made my lists like, okay, this month I could be here, this month I could be there. And it's like visualizing and suddenly planning, but just visualizing how it could be. And now years later, I found these lists. And I thought, oh my gosh, it really happened.
It's all happening.
How I put it down on the paper, and it just happened.
It's really interesting for people who are listening, maybe, because you're very like me. So it felt right. So it's all about how it feels. So explain for people that don't necessarily get that, how we learn to feel the things that we know are right for us. But logically, we might try and talk ourselves out of it, right? Because that's what goes on. And it's like, no, feel into it and listen to that.
That's really a thing that most people can't do, feeling, I think, because they were not allowed to feel. Mm-hmm. Like many people, when you're a kid and you feel something and, oh, no, that's not like this. Come on, let's move on. So you get shut down with your emotions and feelings. And now it's really, if I have clients around 40, often it starts at the end of 30s, that they suddenly feel something is not right, but they can't feel what is right. And in meditation coaching, of course, I put the people in the meditative state. I ask them there, and there it's already much easier to feel, to get out of the headspace. But even for a few people, it's difficult to feel. it's something we have to learn, to get in touch with the body and understanding the feeling, feeling the feeling, and then understanding what it means. And most people don't even want to feel. They don't want to.
And it's, I'm sure you have the same as me, where sometimes, and you ask them about a feeling and they start giving you words, and I'm like, no, that's just a word. That's just a word. Actually, tell me, where do you feel it? How does it feel? And then go from there. And it's kind of breaking down those barriers. And I think a lot of the world, we've been taught, exactly as you say, to not feel. Yeah, actually, when we feel everything, which some people will say, oh my God, I don't want to feel everything. I'm like, no, feeling everything is great, because you can still then decide how to move with that feeling, right?
Yeah. And there are many clients where I see deep down, they know what they feel and they already have the answers. There are many, especially women, are coming and they think they have a problem in their job, or they are not recognized in their job, they are not accepted, not valued. But deep down, they know this is also what's happening in the relationship, but they don't want to feel this, because that means you have to change a lot. And then so just thinking, okay, I can change my job if it's necessary. That's much easier than knowing you have to change all of it, everything. And this is where you have to, for the first time, probably feel yourself and really being honest with what you feel.
Yeah.
When I was honest that when we broke up, when we started having problems and we split up, like saying like, okay, let's take a break. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this break feels good. Maybe I'm not in love anymore. Maybe I don't want to be in this marriage. Maybe.
And how liberating to be able to feel that and express it as well, though.
It's liberated, but then it's also, then you're facing all these options and choices that you have to make. And this is where people don't want to go, because that's fearful.
That's fearful. So so from what you're saying, I'm taking it that you work a lot with women that are going through these kind of things. Is that an area that you kind of specialize in, or that just naturally comes to you?
I thought it's naturally, because I have been through this and we know best what we've been through. We are experts in this now. But finally, my last new clients are all men, and I'm wondering like, what's happening here for me?
So what are the men looking for? Are they in a similar state of life is changing? It just happens that they're men, not women?
No, it's almost the same, and it's also seeing that these are the men who were also never allowed to feel. Right. And now they are totally confused with what's going on, what they want to feel, what they could feel. They need to learn how to feel and to feel the right thing, and then also reacting according to it.
Cool. So how do you teach men to feel? All you men out there listening to this, how do you teach the man to feel?
I don't teach them. I just put them in a state and I make them feel. Like you said, then when you ask, okay, where do you feel this now in your body? That's already something they can feel. Mostly it's like a knot about the third chakra.
Yeah.
Well, everything in this emotional area. But then how does it feel? I don't know.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't know?
Let's sit a little bit longer, and then okay, or if there would be a word or a color, that you bring them deeper into this knot or whatever that this is. Yeah. And for me, it's kind of my gift. I can feel what they feel, and so I know what to ask to bring them to what they feel.
Absolutely. And then it's also you're giving them permission to share that, right? Yeah. And maybe for the first time, as you say.
Yeah. And it's really crazy. And I mean, I understand, I read energies, and I get like, it's like a number who pops in my head, and it's like, okay, what happened when you were 17? Because I know there is something happened, and then they go back and then they review what's happened, and then they explain the situation from that time, and then suddenly it makes bam, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm doing the same. And then they feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like you open a curtain or whatever, and they see it, and then they also can feel it. And then we can change it.
Absolutely, because then the work starts, right? After the recognition, the work starts. So the way that you work with your clients is everybody's treated as an individual, as how they show up.
Say that again.
When you're working with your clients, you treat them all as the unique individual that they are.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, of course. And everybody has his own story and why we are. I mean, there's always, it's the same. It's either it's rejection, it's abandonment, it's all these painful things that happen. But how it happened or why it happened, it's individual. And so we have to look at this person, what happened and why, and move on.
And then look to rebuild them. So what's the bit that you love the most about working with your clients? Is it the freedom that you see them step into? What is it that fires you the most, that keeps you saying, yeah, I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, for me, it's so important. I think if we live in a world where nobody is true, that's horrible. So we need to, it's just bringing the truth up, what we are doing with this work, and being true to yourself, and then becoming and living your truth.
Yeah.
And that's so important, I think, because we need to stop putting everything under the rug and being in denial and being what we are not, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a recurring theme through my conversations that I've recorded this week already. Private conversations with friends, my yoga teacher, coach, Owen, this morning, and we were saying exactly the same stuff. And it's just almost like, for all the bad things that the pandemic has created, I also think there's been a massive raise in consciousness and awareness. Would you agree?
Of course. Yeah.
And it's like, it's now, what can we do with that? Do you know what I mean? How can we galvanize people to get them moving in the right direction and to keep moving?
Yeah, and some people call it the Great Awakening. And I think that's what it is, because now we are kind of forced getting out of where we were hiding and what we were playing, all the roles we were playing. Now we need to get up and be truthful and start all over again.
Absolutely, start all over again. So I'm going to go backwards to come forwards. I'm going to ask about the art again. So yes. What happened to awaken that true artistic intent within you? What happened?
I think it was also something like a feeling that I knew there is more into it. And for my 50th birthday, I went to Florence for 50 days to art school. And I thought, now I always wanted to study there. And I was too afraid when I was 18 and I had the chance to go there. You see all the wind, everything is flying around. But then with 50, I had this feeling there's more, and I want to touch into this, what I knew is hidden somewhere. And so I went to art school in Florence, and then I tapped into this, and I just continued. When I came back here, I took a teacher. I go teaching once a month, and with another teacher once a week, and another one once a month. And through my meditation coach training, you go deeper and deeper. And also, I don't know if you know the Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way.
Artist Way, yeah.
Writing morning pages and really finding your truth again and overcoming all the fears, the guilt, the shame, the excuses that we have. That helped so much to peel these layers off and then becoming more and more myself, I think. And tomorrow is an exposition, and I have a few pieces in an international art fair, which is online. Cool. Yeah.
That's cool. You'll have to make sure that we have that link so that people can see. So what is your artist style? What do you channel?
I think I've specialized on faces and expression in faces. And I also love when I expose, or when people see the paintings, to see what they see in the face or in the expression. Mm-hmm. It's super interesting, and everybody is touched in a certain way by the expression of the painting.
Cool.
For me, and I can see also over the last 3 years, the faces that I painted 3 years ago and that I paint now, they become more friendly, more more sweetness in their face, less fear, less anger. I had a few faces where were just screaming faces.
Okay, that's
So,
interesting. That's interesting though, isn't it? Because that's
yeah,
really the inner
therapy.
stuff coming out through it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my therapy to overcome all these and let this out, this anger, this fear. I was full of anger and fear my whole life. And I was, sometimes I say I was born with the anger, which is in my lineage, and everybody is angry.
Yeah.
I'm
So
working.
excuse me, do you think you were still angry even like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when you'd already settled into this life, you were doing your yoga, you were still think you were holding on to stuff?
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because
Even 3 years ago,
yeah.
honestly, even 3 years ago, when
Yesterday.
this the anger they came out with the paintings. Now I can channel anger much better, or I can feel, oh, now anger is coming up. Why is there still anger? You know, now you analyze and you know, oh, there's still something if you get triggered. But before you are this anger, and you cannot even deal with it.
No, absolutely. So
But I
it's
think we all have some kinds of anger or fear, all these emotion inside. But when they get triggered later and you know how to deal with these emotions, you can sit, and this is the beauty of meditation. You can sit and you just look at the anger like something, like an emotion, and not,
absolutely.
this is me now and I want to just bring it out and scream at everybody and smash something.
It's the learning, I suppose, that you are not your anger, you are not your pain, you are not this, that we can separate it. So
Yeah.
do you do any painting and artwork with your clients then? Because I imagine that would be super cool.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I offer like real workshops, like yoga and art, where we do some yoga to get into this other space, into the subconscious, letting go of the mind. And then after 15-20 minutes of movement, I ask them a question and then let them draw something. And then we move on and then let them draw something.
It's interesting, isn't it? I'm going to a shamanic art weekend in about 3 weeks' time, and I'm really looking forward to it because
nice.
It's things that I've played maybe similar to you, but not with so much intent, as in I haven't always wanted to do art, because I've always sat and thought, oh, I can't draw, or I can't do this. Yeah, I realise how creative I am, but I just need to remove the block that says, no, you can't do this. So it's like, okay, start somewhere. And I think, again, that's part of I think it's part of an age thing with us. It's about being fearless and just saying, well, we're just going to go and do it. And, you know, not judging ourselves on what comes out of that.
Yeah, and I think also the whole life we are creating something, and we put this creative force, we have to put it where we are at that age, and we have to put it into our work when we start working, into the career, and in the kitchen. We are creating anyway every day, but then with age, like you said, we really are looking for other channels of art. And now almost all the clients, they are at a point where they say, oh, I wish I could do more painting or sewing or drawing, something creative. There is something what wants to come out then at a certain age, maybe.
Yeah, and also because it's super cathartic, right? It literally, it's like we intrinsically know that it's going to heal us. So once we get out of our own way, we can say yes and just give it a go, and regardless of what the consequences of giving it a go are. That's really interesting. So
what I also do with clients is which is also a creative exercise, is creating a vision board, which is kind of creative, but at the same time also like makes them think, okay, what do I want? Who am I really? And finding it out in images or activity.
So it's pulling all those strands together, isn't it? And I think that's something that I find really interesting, because like you, we have lots of different modalities that we are trained in, and then when you bring it all together. And I think that means that when we work with our clients, they've got access to so much, because we've done that work, we've done that exploration, and also because we're not afraid to just, you know, have a go at this. Let's see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Because that is often the absolute gift, isn't it? Let's see what happens.
Exactly. But this is what we are almost not allowed to do, just see what happens when we are younger. It's always, I mean, maybe it's also special German part, like you have to be organized, it has to have a certain outcome. There's so much pressure. I was just thinking this morning, I can't even remember what it was, but I felt like, oh my gosh, what was it? It's so, you're so strict on a plan, which isn't even your plan.
No,
But you're
absolutely.
supposed to follow this.
Yeah.
I think there was something in my morning pages this morning and I realized, oh my God.
I think you're really right. I was talking with my niece last week, and one of her daughters took time out of school. So they're 7 and 10, and they're doing what we call SAT. So they're already doing their first tests at school to see how good they are and if they fit the model. Do you know what I mean? And the youngest daughter, she just felt a little bit off. And she had tummy ache, but she wasn't really sick. And then they decided to let her have the day off school. And then my niece just said, she said, the only thing that I can think of is that they're doing tests at school. And I was just thinking, gosh, isn't it awful that we're having 6, 7, 8-year-olds feel that way already? We're literally ruining them when they're so young, aren't we?
Yeah. And I realized it yesterday. A client told me that their grandkid or child, they had like yesterday, there were tests in school here in Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
They were testing on Monday and Tuesday. And the way she said it, I felt all this pressure in my chest, like I had to go through this, and everything came up again. And I remembered when I studied engineering, and much later I studied for an MBA. And when I told my mom, okay, I'm going now back to study for an MBA, and she said, oh my gosh, Petra, you want to go through all this again?
Yeah.
Did you forget how much you were crying? You were crying all the time. And I said, yeah, but I think this time it's different. This time I really want this. And it was different.
It was different because you really wanted it.
Exactly. It was, but it was also on my terms, and it was different. But now thinking of exams can make me, like she said yesterday, I can feel still that there's this inner child in me still suffering from my school time and exams.
I'm just like that. It's kind of like, oh gosh, you're going to make me write it. Can't I just show it to you? Can't I just talk it to you? And, you know, and that's the thing that I think we learn as we get older, especially with what we do. We understand how everybody learns so differently. So to still try to fit people into this little box and be like this at this age when we're all so completely different is just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think for me, there's something very, I don't know how to say it, but being tested by somebody. There's something, what is it? How, I don't know how to explain, but I think
it's, it makes you feel.
Yeah, it makes it feel, and to test somebody. You know, there's so much more behind this. It's not just, for me, it's not just testing the knowledge, but it's also after testing, it means, okay, you're good, you're bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is, for me, this is like, testing is like judging. Yeah. Because you are judged then.
Absolutely.
On the outcome.
Yeah.
And I think there's something very rude in it.
Yeah. And then if we add on to that, another conversation with my niece, actually with a German friend of hers who's a teacher over here. And she did incredibly well with all her teaching of German with her tutor group. But actually they needed to, the bureaucracy needed to amend her figures because the overall impact was not the way that they needed it to be. So they actually needed to lessen the grades because it was making the English or the French department look. And I was like, so not only are you subjecting these children to this testing and these examinations, you are then going to manipulate the figures because it means X more support or X more money. I'm like, what kind of world are we living in? Do you know what I mean? What is going on in the world? It's kind of madness, isn't it?
It's mad, and there we are coming back that nothing is true in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is falsified. But yeah. I guess, you know, I swear never to talk about government, politics and religion on here, but we only need to look at the way the pandemic has played out with different countries at different times to know that, you know, the blurring of the lines and the blatant disregard of certain bits of information. It's just rife, isn't it? But that's what, and equally though, that's what we're showing our children. That is what we are showing the people that ultimately are going to carry on for us. So we need to do better, don't we?
We need to do better. And this is something I just reflecting on my art, what I obviously have in my art. There's always room for imperfectionism. And I didn't realize it like this, but my teacher, he said that he loves the style, that it's not totally perfect. And this is something I was already taught when I studied earlier. If I did a mistake, and he said, no, that's fine. Then this is showing it's handmade. It's
real.
It's real, and it's your touch, you know, it's coming from you. This is only you can do this like this. And now obviously I have in all my paintings something like this, where something went wrong. And of course you want to fix it or you want to make it better. And my teacher, he saw it recently, like, oh, that's perfect. I could never do it like that. That's like false perfectionism, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, that's nice. I can do this.
But what a beautiful way to put that to actually how we're living our life, right? Because all of these people that are trying to be the so-called version of perfect, which we know doesn't exist, because even the ones that are told they're perfect aren't perfect. So if we just accept that we're perfectly imperfect and we're all slightly flawed, we can actually lean into that with love, can't we? With love and kindness.
Yeah, and seeing for what it is, and that's what it is, and that's perfect.
Absolutely. That's perfect. That's perfect. This is our version. We're going to create our own version of perfect, which is also good. So for anyone that's listening as well, you also have a book if people wanted to know a little bit more about you, your thoughts, life, etc. Tell us a bit about your book.
The book I published in 2016, and it's explaining a bit also my change of life, how I and why I had to change. It's called Yin is the New Black. So yin is the yin energy, feminine, soft energy that I understood also at one point in my life. I have to put more yin into it. I was so masculine, growing up with boys in the neighborhood and then becoming an engineer, working only with men. So I was very young. And then in the evening, I went to the gym, more young on my body, spinning and weightlifting and all this kind. And at one point I understood, like almost with a burnout, that, okay, I need to change something.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was writing the book already for a long time, but when I did my yin yoga teacher training, then suddenly it made click. Then I understood what it was about. So I wrote a book about the yin part. Yin is the new black, and looking at yoga, meditation, nutrition, lifestyle, how you can create a more relaxed and healthier lifestyle.
Create the life you want. And people can grab that on Amazon and things like that.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and mostly on Amazon.
We'll make sure we put all the links, etc. I want to ask you a question that you may or may not want to answer, but I'm going to ask it because I feel drawn to it. So having explained that you recognize that you were definitely in a very alpha male kind of work environment and quite masculine in some ways, do you believe that that had an impact on the energy within your relationship? That you didn't have enough time to be the feminine part of you?
Yeah, that's of course. And I've never learned being this feminine part or showing up like really feminine. And I've never learned it. And it was almost kind of not bad, but it was dangerous. The way how I was raised is like being feminine is dangerous.
Really?
Yeah. No, and I made some experience that where I felt like as a woman, we are in danger. So you stop showing up as a woman.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, isn't it? Because retrospectively, I mean, if I look at you now, I see your softness, I see your femininity. Yeah, I can equally see you going into the alpha male part of you. But so do you think that you lean much more towards your yin now unconsciously, that it is just more where you sit?
I think it's more unconsciously, but also consciously, that I also can stop being being this masculine and powerful and controlled version, that I can also let go now and say, I don't care, just lean back and let it be.
And that must be a beautiful feeling, right? That's freedom.
Yeah, that's really freedom. And now I'm writing a second book right now, and which is also, of course, related to me. And the title will be How to Meditate Yourself to the Beach.
Oh, I like it. It's funny because when you were talking, I was thinking, I was saying, is there another book? So you've answered that question beautifully.
Yeah.
So I guess this is like the next installment of life and the learning since you wrote that first book.
That's what I thought when I started, but because I write in the morning, I write the book really early in like morning pages, so it's coming out of the almost still subconscious mind. And the more I wrote, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is about divorce and changing life after separation.
Okay.
I was totally surprised by what came out while I was writing. I had a different point of view in my mind when I had this title. I knew always this title, How to Meditate Yourself to the Beach, but which is still the topic also, that finding yourself and finding, for me, it was getting to the beach. This is where I wanted to be always, my all life long. I wanted to be there. And now I wanted to explain how I got there. But I also saw, I think it will go more into the direction for women after separation to really, now is the time to find yourself and to really tap into your truth, what you want to do. And that it's not like, it's not something negative or failure or whatever. Now it's the chance to become you. And this is often what I see for women. A breakup is necessary to become yourself, because it's not possible in a relationship for most women where they are right now. If there's really a need or a pull to become yourself, it's more difficult in relationship. I mean, if you have a relationship where this is possible, where you can do it together, perfect.
Right.
But if some women just can't, and they need to find their own way, they need to be maybe alone.
Cool. So it's almost like a bit of a roadmap of your experiences, your learning and your knowledge with all these different clients and everything put into something that people can pick up and go, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Roadmap, and also understanding now is my chance, instead of, being the victim and, oh, what a failure, we couldn't make it, and only seeing the negative part of a divorce or a separation instead of seeing the chance.
Absolutely. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, isn't it? And I definitely really believe that there's something about when we get to a certain age, we just don't care so much about what's not important, do we? Because we've just learned it is what it is, and we're going to do what we do. And we may as well live this life, this one life that we've got in this, guys, we may as well live it the best way that we can. And as I was saying to my friend earlier, as long as we're not purposely looking to hurt people or do bad to people, because we know 100% there will always be someone in our life who looks at us and thinks, oh, I wish she hadn't done that, or she should have done this. We're always going to have that. So we've just got to do it in the best way that we possibly can. I love it.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that we could always do it the best thing, but when we are younger, we are feeling so much pressure of the society, or we think there is this certain way that we have to follow, instead of really looking just at ourselves, what we really want, and following our heart. And I still have hope that it will change, that the new generations can do this more easily. And I have the feeling it is changing when I see my generation, who are parents now, and their younger kids. We leave more room now for being themselves.
Yeah, true. Do you think, and this is again from the conversation I was having earlier, that there's also something in the fact that, when we were young, it was very much about, we have to get the qualifications, we have to have the job, we have to have the house, we have to have this. And although there's still lots of younger generations, millennials, whatever we want to call them, that are still doing that. There's also a lot of them that they're just not fussed about getting their first house or having that car. They're actually living in a freer sense of space. Would you agree?
Yeah, I can see that is shifting. The younger generation now, they are looking at life a bit differently, and also they were raised differently than we were. And I realized, because last week my mom turned 80, I had a Zoom coffee call with them, and I saw my dad, who is aging fast, and that makes me sad to see also the way he was living and the way I was living through them. I mean, if I had different parents, I probably had a totally different life, but now looking at it, and then the next day I talked to a friend, and she's a millennium kid and now become a mother, and the way how she talked about her baby, I realized that I think this generation, they also have a different notation of self-love. And I think if you love yourself fully, and then you have a baby, you love this baby fully, because you understand that's a part of me.
That's right. It's an extension of you.
It's an extension, and you raise this child much more differently than if I look at my parents, who had no idea of self-love. For them, it's like, I mean, being born in the war and just building up and functioning.
Yeah.
They have a totally different translation of love.
Yeah.
So they can't love themselves. How can they give love to their kids? So I think this is where also the difference is now, that the young mothers from today, they love themselves much more, so they can give a different love to their babies, and these babies, they will raise completely different.
It's interesting, because we're obviously talking about babies. So my daughter obviously just had her baby, so it will be a month old tomorrow, which is amazing.
Wow.
And people have said to me, how does it feel to be a grandmother? How does it feel to be an Omi? And I just, the only and the best way that I can describe it is, it's like all my love for Nicola is amplified.
Yeah.
And then when I think about that, it makes me go all kind of gooey, because I'm thinking, the only thing I'm really thinking is, how lucky is this little girl that's got these people that just absolutely love her, and as importantly, know that they love themselves. So therefore it's so much easier to give it, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but this is something that has changed so much over the last years.
Hello, cat.
This is where I think, especially coaches for the last years, is what we trying to teach this self-love. And in the beginning also, it was difficult for me. Loving myself, I didn't even know what that means. And by going to the gym every night and push yourself through 2 hours of spinning or whatever, in the end I was like, is this really loving myself?
This is what love is. Yeah.
I'm pushing myself, I'm hurting myself. And with the time I understood more and more what self-love is about.
Yeah.
But the generations before us, I don't even know if that word existed at that time.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're so lucky to be where we are now, and be able to look in the rearview mirror and bring all the great stuff forward, leave all the other stuff, and absolutely know we're walking into, regardless of what's going on in the world, we're walking into a brilliant future.
Yeah.
Because we own ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much a key, that we own ourselves. We don't feel like we're indebted to other people for different reasons. We're being free enough to be ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, this is also what the positive side of this time is now showing, that now is the time to work on yourself, to bring the best out of yourself, to let the past behind you, and really uncover the truth and what you really want from life.
There you go. I think that's a beautiful nugget, and I'm just thinking, like, we should be wrapping up. So, I think that's a really nice way to end it. If you were going to give a few, I want to say, tips or pointers for people to start exploring themselves, what would you tell them to do?
Well, as a meditation coach, of course, give them really the advice to sit down every day. And if it's just taking 3 deep breaths, just sitting, closing eyes and observing the breaths, observing what they feel. There's a body scan, it's called, like you sit and you scan your whole body from top to toe. Just go down like you're doing a scan and really feel every area of your body. And just feel it, accept it without judging, without criticizing, just observing every day, checking in with yourself.
And everybody can find a couple of minutes a day to do that, right?
It's a minute.
Yeah. And then the more that they do it, the more that they'll want to do it.
That's the secret. We don't tell them that. They will crave it after a month.
That's right. They can ease into that. They can ease into that. Okay. It's been fantastic to speak to you, and you've given lots of nuggets of information there. So what we'll do under this, we'll put all the links of how people can find you and get in contact with you. And I just want to thank you for sharing so openly with us.
Thank you, Janice. It's always nice talking to you. Even now that we can't see each other, I hope soon we can.
Well, hopefully we can find ourselves in the same country.
Exactly, and doing another yoga retreat, bringing everybody together.
That sounds good to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
have a great rest of the day. Yeah, big thanks to you. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.